From the Star Conspiracy and the content channel, Hey, Brett Star. I'm Brett Star. This is Long Strange Trip. Episode 13.
My name is Brad Hilliard. I am one of the directors of business development here at the Star Conspiracy. Been with the agency for 5 years now. Never wanted to work for an agency, but I found a great one to work for, and I've been here for 5 years and look forward to 5 or 10 or 15 more. I live here in Fort Worth with my growing family, and I'm a sports nerd and a history nerd, and I probably quote movies in professional situations more than I should.
Yeah, and you have an encyclopedic knowledge of many topics. You're a good storyteller. You grew up in Austin, right?
That's right.
And when did you move to Fort Worth?
It's funny because you and I lived in Austin at about the same time, about essentially the 90s, and never crossed paths there, but a different time in that city's history.
Well, thanks for pulling the punch there, because I was like 50 and you were like 5. That's why we never crossed paths. It would have been weird if I'd shown up at like your elementary school.
Yes.
At what point did you realize the pandemic was going to change everything?
I think, like a lot of people that are sports nerds, like myself, there was that moment where it flashed across, I think, my phone screen that the NBA was pausing playing. And I think that was one of the first times where it went from, hey, this is sort of this thing that's in the news cycle that is, around and seems more like a nuisance, to, oh, somebody's taking some really drastic measures here domestically. Like, this is happening now. And they probably wouldn't be doing this, for just like a flu outbreak. This seems real now. So I think that was a moment for me where, oh goodness, we need to be prepared for something bad here.
Yeah, it's almost hard to remember, with the today is April 5th, and yesterday was the NCAA championship game last night. And it's almost hard to remember that this is the first, quote, normal March Madness NCAA tournament in the last 2 years, because last year it was played in a bubble, and the year before that, I think it was completely canceled.
There were, everything was canceled, and for a while they were just showing old games on TV. And of course, some of those you remembered, oh yeah, this is the championship game, I remember what happened here. But occasionally they'd be showing, Auburn versus Georgia football game from 1991, and you're sitting there at home and you're like, I have no idea who won this game. I don't know anything. I'm just going to time travel and just pretend like I'm watching a game live, despite the fact that it's in standard def and there's all these old rules and it was clearly happening in 1991, but I'm going to watch it like it's happening right now because I need the entertainment.
Well, you're not only a big sports fan, but you also had have a background in sports promotion. What was that like?
Yeah, I worked in the sports marketing world and in the sports media world for about a decade after I got out of college, before I came to the Star Conspiracy, and it was a lot of fun. A fun way to spend my 20s. Got to go to a lot of events. I got to go to the Final Four when I was working with IMG when it was down in San Antonio in 2008. So a lot of cool events like that. A lot of cool interactions with sports figures and just getting to be part of the excitement for a while. Fun way to spend the years before I really grew up and got a big boy job.
I've never asked you this question before, but because you like so many sports, but what's your favorite sport?
This is going to be very Texan of me, but I love really all of the levels of football.
Mm-hmm.
Played high school football, was not granted the athletic ability to go beyond that. I know you played high school football too, so there's something special about those Friday night lights and the sense of community and the way that so many guys like you or I got to learn about teamwork and determination and toughness and victory and defeat, on the gridiron in those days. And then college football, of course, I grew up in Austin where college football is king. Moved up here to Fort Worth to go to TCU and love my Horned Frogs, as you know. Have a lot of emotional eggs in that basket, which has sometimes been a good investment and other times not. And then, the pro game's fun too. It's the sport at its highest level. The Cowboys were good when I was a kid. We don't have to talk about how the Cowboys have been since then. We can move on to another topic.
Many, many, many years ago, the Star Conspiracy branded the Dallas Cowboys fan club. So we came up with the name True Blue. We designed the logo that was it may still be used. I'm not sure, but it was for a long time. And we met Jerry Jones and, we signed a normal contract with them to produce this marketing work. And they loved the work. And when it was all done, Mr. Jones asked if it would be all right if he paid us in merchandise and, maybe a picnic on the football field. We're like, no, we did this work for money and stuff. And he didn't give us any money. I think Kevin took advantage of all the perks that we got from that deal. But yeah, Jerry Jones, interesting guy. So, we kind of go back and think about the moment that the pandemic became really real for you was, kind of a sports experience almost. But, in the months and years that have followed that, has the pandemic changed your outlook on life, your life plans or your goals or anything like that? If so, how?
Yeah, I would say so. I think in a lot of ways, I'm probably not the only person that would say this, that I think it caused me to, finally grow up. When you had that existential moment that we all probably had where, what is the world going to end up looking like? I need to, my number one priority has to be my family and their safety. And so there's a lot of sort of, maybe fatherly instinct that kicks in there. And there's a lot of things, sports included, right? A lot of the things that we find entertaining, whether it's sports or music or movies or whatever, that in those moments when the pandemic was really getting real, you were like, that was a luxury. And I don't know when that luxury is coming back, but for right now, I need to focus on making sure that my family has what they need and that they're safe. And so, obviously we're getting back now to where we can enjoy some of those luxuries. But I think taking them for granted a lot less than we did, pre-pandemic.
Yeah. I just heard on the radio this morning that, for the first time, Dallas County has fewer than 1,000 patients hospitalized for COVID, since, early 2020. Which is really great. So it does feel in Texas, for right now, at least, that, the pandemic is in retreat and people are, and I'm sure it's like this to some degree everywhere, but people are going out, they're doing stuff. When you think about, your experience during the pandemic in the context of work, how did your relationship with work, work with a capital W change? How you prioritized it, how you approached it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there was a little bit of a mentality at the beginning where it was, hey, let's put on our hard hats and let's just, let's head out into the storm. And, I think one of the things that we did was pivoting to, rather than getting on the phone and trying to drum up immediate business with people, was this sense of how can we be of value to you now? Mm-hmm. How can we help you shape, even if it's not part of a paid engagement, how can we help you shape your strategy and what you're doing, for our clients and our, the people in our pool of prospects. And so a lot of it was kind of this service-oriented mentality. How can I be of value to you? How can I, even if it's not answering questions, how can I provide information to you mm-hmm. that you can consume that can be helpful? And that's something that we've stuck with. We are always trying to be, the rising tide that's going to lift all the ships, in the ocean of workplace technology. And so, for me, my day to day has been a lot less of, hey, I'm going to be in Austin, or I'm going to be in Houston or Indianapolis or Las Vegas, and let's sit down and meet and talk about, how we can come up with an engagement in the short term, and more of how can I be of value, how can I be of service to you, with the kind of golden rule, like what I'm putting in, that karmic, what I'm going to get out, mentality, which has served us well. We've had a lot of people that have turned around and said, "Hey, I love what y'all put out. I love, how helpful you've been to me, even when I'm not working with you." Now we have an opportunity to do a rebrand because we bought a competitor, or, we're looking for a new PR partner.
Yep.
And so I think that's one thing that shifted, in work during the pandemic. And two, working from home, right? I'm obviously here at home today, and I was never really a fan of working from home. I never had a setup to do it. And now, I'm at home 80% of the time, and I almost feel like going to the office sometimes is the more indulgent choice that I can make in any given day. Hey, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna go down to the office. I'm gonna enjoy company. I might go out to eat, because now that's sort of the irony, right? Like, now there's places to go eat or grab a drink after work around our office, which, for so many years there weren't in that part of South Main here in Fort Worth. So, working from home is certainly a shift that I don't know if I'm, permanently going to go back from at any point.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's just a lot easier for me to get into the flow of the workday if I can focus on, getting my son ready for school, fed, teeth brushed, out the door. And then instead of, turning around and, instantly, hey, let me do what I need to do to get ready, get in the car, drive down to the office and all of that. A lot of times I have, an hour and a half, and, I'll go for a walk. Sometimes I'll watch the news. Sometimes I just get caught up on, on work items, or reading something in the news that I hadn't caught up on. And just taking a little bit of time to just sort of, wade into the day rather than diving in head first, has been a really good way for me to, when I get to the point where it is time to, focus 100% on work, I'm not feeling like, oh, I just got out of the car, I was just dealing with, unfriendly drivers on the road, or unexpected traffic, or anything like that.
What was it like, especially in the early days of the pandemic, to be a salesperson for a professional services company? How'd that make you feel?
It was pretty scary for a while. I think just about anybody selling anything other than, Zoom, I think people saw, like we did, that pipeline just get obliterated. Yeah. I mean, deals that were right there on the 1 yard line, gone. Anything mid funnel, evaporated pretty quickly. And there was, to your point, early on, there was a sense of it would be incredibly tone deaf to be calling on people and seeking business right now. And so, I think part of that memory I have blocked, because it was just, there were some days and weeks where it felt really empty. And what can I even do right now? But I think that as we realized that, the pandemic was bringing about a lot of the changes to the future of work that we've been talking about as an agency for a long time, we started to realize, right, this is the event that is accelerating all these processes that we've talked about that were coming and that we thought were a slow evolution. Well, they're here now. And so we were able to, I remember some of those workshops where we sort of reworked the sermon that we were giving, right? As we were out there evangelizing to the people in our orbit of, the world right now and going forward needs innovative solutions in how they attract and retain and keep engaged and keep motivated and upskilled, and right, how they service their workforce, they need these innovative tools that you have. And so they are going to be, the ears that out there in the marketplace are going to perk up. It is right. It is pouring down rain. It's raining cats and dogs, and you all are the ones selling umbrellas. And so I think it gave us, after we figured that out, it gave us a sense of purpose that we could be a beacon of hope to a lot of the people in our orbit, and we could say, hey, this is painful right now, but this is an opportunity for you to really make your mark in shaping what that future of work is, and bringing these great concepts and these great new technologies to market. And so, it was sometime that summer of 2020 as that was evolving. And, I remember starting to wake up in the morning with more of a sense of purpose. And now I know how I can fill my days, because now I have a good story to tell. I can bring good news, to these people in my orbit. And so that was very uplifting once we got to that point.
Yeah, I'm curious. How did you and Mary Lou make decisions, during the pandemic? Like in my home, this has nothing to do with, roles or anything like that. In my home, I became like the chief COVID officer because I'm just a research geek. And so I had a dashboard at home, it was all tied to numbers. So whenever we had to make a decision, Jennifer and I would get together and, we'd go through the numbers and, we'd kind of weigh the pros and cons. How did you guys make decisions about sending Harrison back to school, or taking that, vacation that you had planned and then canceled and then planned again and then canceled? How did that work in your home?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, to your point, I think, we tried to rely on information that wasn't, subjective and put through a political lens. And I think one of the great tragedies of the pandemic was the timing of it on the political calendar, which is a whole different conversation that we don't have to have today. But we tried to view things not through any political lens, right? Not looking at news stories as much as some of the government resources that there were, right? The Tarrant County website, the state of Texas website, the CDC website, and looking at, what those trend lines look like, what they, how things were affecting children, but having to weigh it against, the emotional toll of the pandemic, because it was never realistic to completely seal yourself off and not have human contact, right? We could never just go into solitary confinement, because the cost of that to our our well-being and our health, it just didn't make sense. And so I think we had to weigh how we were feeling. And, we did at one point plan a trip that was, almost completely outdoors. We drove to Colorado, and, we're in and around Rocky Mountain National Park, which I cannot recommend enough. Just beautiful part of Colorado. But we did that because, we couldn't stand being at home, confined in those same walls at the same time. And two, when we weighed, what would it be like if Harrison went through his whole second grade year at almost this standstill of learning and acquiring new knowledge? And that wasn't, to me, I think that outweighed the risk of maybe he gets sick or maybe one of us gets sick.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment where you thought you might lose your job?
No, I remember there was one of the emails that you sent out that was kind of, level setting, in real time with people. I remember you saying, hey, we're going to get through this and nobody's going to lose their job. And, I think that I just had to trust that at the time. The little bit that I knew about, the financial stability of the agency, as well as kind of the mechanisms of the PPP system, it made me feel like there's at least a short-term solution here, right? I mean, if we're going years and years where people are stuck at home, we're probably going to have to figure something else out. But I think I just said, this is going to be a tough couple of weeks or couple months, but I believe in right, the sermon that we've been giving and the purpose of how our agency is looking to shape the world, that this too shall pass, if I can quote both my mom and OK Go.
What are the things you think we got really right as a company during the pandemic?
I think that it helped us double down on that sense of trust in each other. We're smart, fun, and creative people, right? And we can do a good job, and that everybody's going to pull their weight, in good times and in bad. And so I think that, across Zoom screens, we kind of had those moments where we locked eyes and said, all right, we're in this, and let's do that. Let's get through this. I think that a lot of people had the willingness to go outside their comfort zone and say, I'm going to do something that maybe I haven't done enough to feel completely confident in, but this client needs this, or this internal team needs this. And so I think that sense of collective trust was pretty key.
Yeah. What do you think we got wrong? Anything that stands out as something we did really, really wrong?
I know that we had that time where we essentially said that there are no account managers anymore. There's just leaders of accounts.
Yeah.
And account management is it is a skill set that's in demand. Yeah. And, there are people that, can be shepherds, and there are people that, can be led by shepherds. Right. Yeah. And so, I think that was an experiment that was fairly short-lived.
Yeah, that was
it was interesting sometimes to see a graphic designer or a content creator that wasn't used to leading kind of that collaborative strategizing.
Well, it's been a great conversation, Brad. I only have one more question for you. What did the pandemic teach you? Like, if you flash forward, 20 years, what are you going to tell your kids that you learned that they should also know? What wisdom will you impart based on your experiences during the pandemic?
That they should be ready for whatever it is that comes next. I think, coming out of the pandemic doesn't mean that the next 10 or 20 or 30 years is going to be smooth sailing. I mean, we're already moving into, a situation where, geopolitics is a little more tense than it's been in a while. But, there are going to be changes in the world, through wars and, and cultural revolutions and, terrorist attacks and that sort of thing. There are going to be things that come along that are going to make things hard, but are going to open up new opportunities. And, you just need to be ready to take care of what really matters. And so, I hope we don't have another pandemic anytime soon, but there'll be tough days ahead at some point.
Well said. Well, thanks, Brad. I enjoyed talking to you.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Glad to get him back in school, and it took some time too, right? You don't just turn that on overnight. It's like that old, the joke on The Simpsons one time where Homer said, "Stop the presses," and they stopped the presses. And then he fixed something and he said, "Start the presses." And the guy said, "That takes like 6 hours to do."
I don't know if I'm happy that so many people are experiencing the outdoors, or I'm pissed off because I can't get my favorite campsites anymore. Yeah, I need to put my abundance hat on, because that's real scarcity mindset. It's like there's only enough campsites to go around, so I better get mine.
When you talk about flattening the agency, it kind of reminds me of that scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, right, where Paul Rudd is the surfing instructor, and he's like, do less, do less, do less, do less. okay, now you're just laying there. You got to do something,
Yeah.
right? And so